Hey YouTube, welcome back to the Debate Zone. I'm Jacob, and today we're going to be taking a look into my opinion of the 5 worst trades or most one-sided trades in NFL history. I'm going to do something as part of Football Fridays called Jake's Takes. It rhymes with my name, it's easy and catchy. So I'm just going to give you guys a football take every week. This is going to be my football take for this one. Without further ado, let's get right into it and bang out with number 5. So at number 5, guys, I'm going to be going with something that's a little bit close to my heart as a Packers fan, but that is going to be when the Atlanta Falcons traded Brett Favre to the Green Bay Packers, because we traded them, I should say we as the Packers traded for a first round pick, right? I think they took him 33rd overall if I remember right. Obviously the 1991 draft. 1 year later we traded them for a first round pick. Due to him disagreeing with the GM or coach at the time. I think it might have been the head coach, Jerry, I can't remember his last name, Glanville. And obviously Brett Favre went on to play 16 years, only won 1 Super Bowl, but hey, it's 1 more Super Bowl than the Falcons got during that time. And 3 MVP seasons, Hall of Fame, he's enshrined in canon. And it just kind of showed, it set the Packers up. Obviously, we went from Brett Favre to Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers played another, well over a decade, and now we have Jordan Love. So the Packers, that really started back to almost the renaissance of the Packers, being able to bring them from what was a bad time in history, right? We won the first couple Super Bowls, didn't really win any since. We're going through a big slump. I obviously wasn't alive during this, but that was the 80s for the Packers, and then the 90s and the 2000s and the 2010s. Even though we only have 2 Super Bowls to account for them, the Packers have been one of the, the heavy hitters of the league. And that all stems from this trade of Atlanta. And obviously Atlanta has been in QB purgatory, never really truly being able, Michael Vick, but they've never truly been able to establish that dynastic franchise quarterback. So going on to number 4, I have personally Oakland trading Randy Moss to the Patriots. I think it was a 4th round pick in 2007. Randy cost the Oakland Raiders a lot of money. He was pretty expensive in the 2 years that they had him, and they elected to trade him to the Patriots, where obviously, as everyone famously knows, in 2007 they went 16-0 en route before Eli slammed them. What a year. But they took Randy to superstar levels. Unbelievable season, one of the best receiving seasons ever, and that trade to New England is what set up Randy to be arguably the 2nd or 3rd best wide receiver ever. I think he's 2nd. I just have him behind Jerry. I think he's that great. You could make an argument for Terrell Owens. But that trade, again, it just absolutely screwed the Raiders. They lost an unbelievable talent in Randy Moss, and it just added to even though they didn't win a Super Bowl, that was during their 10-year hiatus, it just solidified New England even more as that dynastic 20-year run that the GOAT did. Sliding over to number 3, though, we are going to take a better look at the rest, or a more modern one, with the Chicago Bears dealing a 1st, 3rd, and 4th round pick, as well as I think a 3rd round a year later for Trubisky. They moved up 1 spot. So think about it. They traded 3 picks to move up 1 singular spot from 2 to 1 with the 49ers, and they did all this to draft Mitchell Trubisky, which obviously has backfired tremendously. He was nowhere near as talented as a 1st overall pick should have been. He's became kind of a journeyman, bouncing between teams. Obviously, he last year had Pittsburgh. I would say it's a bust. I know that they made the playoffs 1 year with Trubisky, or had a winning season 1 year with Trubisky, I think. 10-6, I think. I might be wrong on that, actually. But the Bears got completely blindsided by this. This set them back even 5 years. People might argue, well, now we have Caleb, or they have Caleb. But you obviously never would have known that Caleb Williams would be what the Bears would get. And truly a destructive trade for the Bears. Made them suck for 4 more extra years. San Francisco took full advantage and helped build what they have now as the most talented roster on paper in the league. Just absolutely appalling trade, horrible decision. The Bears GM and front office has always been a little rough. They're getting a lot better now. I've liked a lot of their moves, but in those 2010s, they were not the best. So before I get on to number 2 and number 1, I want to give an honorary shout out because there was one thing, an honorable mention, that I wanted to add to the video, but I felt because it's only been literally 1 year, I wasn't ready. But I think the Bryce Young trade up from the Carolina Panthers will go down as probably 2 or 3 in this all-time worst. If not, possibly, I think it'll solidify it too. And the reason behind that is that you traded so much for Bryce, right? Which lost you CJ, who looks unbelievable. Like, CJ Stroud looks incredible. Bryce Young looks lost. But not only that, because you traded your next year, how horrible Bryce was got you the first overall pick again. And you handed the Bears Caleb, right? And you could argue that Caleb and C.J. Stroud are the 2 most, on paper, talented young quarterbacks in the league right now. Prospects, like Jordan Love's up there, obviously. But those 2 are the prospects, and you could have had either of them, and they're both going to be franchise QBs for a decade. And you got neither. Instead, you have undersized, under-talented, underdeveloped Bryce Young. So I think that will be one of the worst trades in NFL history. But right now, I'm not ready to put it there. Which brings me to number 2, which is a recent one, which is that Denver, when they traded Drew Lock, Noah Fant, Shelby Harris, 2 firsts, 2 seconds, and a 5th for Russell Wilson and a 4th rounder. I mean, this blew up in their face. Obviously, Denver had gone a few years without making the playoffs. Actually, I think it's been since 2015 when they won the Super Bowl. Obviously, they lost Peyton Manning, couldn't really figure out a quarterback situation, but they had a super talented, super well-coached roster. Well, not well-coached, but super talented on paper roster, and they were missing a quarterback. Russell had a down year in Seattle. They took a gamble. He was one of the top 3 to 5 players in the league when he was in his prime in Seattle. They took a chance on him, and I mean, I could not even have seen this coming. I mean, Russell Wilson fell off a cliff. It was a shadow of himself, of who he used to be, and he completely disrupted it. Sean Payton and him never got along. It was 2 disaster year, a disaster year with Sean Payton and a disaster year with Nathaniel Hackett. Wilson didn't look awful last year. He was probably like the 20th best quarterback in the league, but when you trade your future for the 20th best quarterback in the league, you're never going to do anything. It's one of the worst picks, and now they're paying him $37 million a year to play with someone else. So that was, I mean, one of the most one-sided trades in history, but not number 1. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is going to take us to what I think everybody here who watches football is going to know. And if you don't know, that's okay. That's what this channel's for. It's to educate and to discuss. And that is when Jimmy Johnson traded star running back Herschel Walker and got 4 draft picks. He sent Herschel Walker and 4 draft picks. They got 5 players, 3 first rounds, 2 second rounds, and a 3rd round. Herschel Walker went on to not rush for 1,000 yards again as Minnesota. And with who they took in the 1st round pick of the next year from Minnesota, Emmitt Smith, the NFL's all-time leading rusher, Hall of Famer, one of the best running backs of all time, who became what I like to call the tricky trio, but who completed the trio of Michael Irving, Troy Aikman, and Emmitt Smith, who went on to win 3 Super Bowls in 4 years, I believe. Yes. And the last time the Cowboys were relevant, I'm just going to throw that out there. The last time they made an NFC championship was with these guys, 1993 or 1984. And it completely cemented the dynasty. It won them 3 Super Bowls almost immediately, which, if you think about it, is like the best bang for your buck trade you could do. And the reason that I will never support the Cowboys or root on them to be super successful is because of what they did to Jimmy Johnson. I think the fact that Jerry has to be about him when he wins. He can't just be a background owner the way Robert Kraft is exactly why the Cowboys have struggled so hard. It always has to be about him and what he did as a GM and him winning them the title. And firing Jimmy Johnson, I don't care. If I do a different video on worst decisions in NFL history, that might be number one because that was delusion. Jimmy Johnson is an incredible coach. I'm so happy he's in the Hall of Fame. And that was just the most one-sided trade out of him and to lose his job later. But on a positive note, he won them 3 Super Bowls. Last time they were super relevant, and that star in the helmet, which Jerry is incredible at marketing, you can contribute this trade as a big factor on that. But let me know your thoughts in the comments below, guys. Let me know where you would have these ranked, what other trades you think were horrible. Let me know the best and worst trade your favorite NFL team did, guys. That's going to be all from me. Please like and subscribe. It helps the channel out so much. I appreciate it. I will respond to every comment. It's my favorite thing to do. I love talking sports. Thank you so much. This has been Jacob, and peace.